Nostalgia is a very powerful thing. So if you're anything like me, you have a long history of getting your ass beat in video games. But fret not. I think this is a story that everybody can talk about because it happens to everybody at some time. This is 5 PS1 games that kicked my ass. So we're starting with a truly spectacular entry here into the PS1 pantheon, and it is, of course, Die Hard Trilogy, the John McClane spectacle that of course features almost nothing from those movies and a complete and utter bastardization of all of their events in glorious, polygonal early PS1-esque mechanical richness. And this is an interesting one because this is 3 games split by a choice at the very beginning. The original Die Hard is a run-and-gun action kind of floor-crawling game, and the second one is a light gun game set in an airport, of course, Die Hard 2. And then the final one is Die Hard with a Vengeance, which is a driving, crazy taxi, timed kind of skirmish thing. These games are interesting. Back in the day, you didn't really get access to many video games, and I got access to this one through another friend, fortunate in the friend sphere to be able to do so. And this was one of those games where the first one was really hard. You could kind of do it, but inevitably with the bombs and everything, you would kind of die and game over. The second one we actually beat because it was much more accessible, I guess. Really, really fun. Lots of great memories with it. But the third one was where it got serious. Shit got real. Because you were always at the mercy of this ticking clock, and it was constantly rotating and getting bigger on the screen, and the whole thing was positively terrifying. And as you can imagine, PlayStation 1, nothing is standardized, everything's quite early, so those driving experiences, it was knuckle-biting stuff, and we did not fare very well. The second game that beat my ass was Tekken. The King of Iron Fist tournament. What more needs to be said about this majestic series? But back at the start, it was something else. So before I got to play this game, I had a friend who hyped it up to me. He was going deep. He was telling me characters' backstories, he was telling me what they were all up to, he was explaining the cutscenes and the endings. So many cool ideas were coming out of my friend's mouth with this game that I just had to see and I had to play it. And he brought it to my house one day to try to show me some of the cool things, and the coolest of all of them was a character called Gunjack. It was this robot that had got all these cool weapons on him, and my mind was just playing all kinds of tricks on me and coming up with these majestic ideas of what he probably looked like. And now he looks like something that they made on Blue Peter when there was nothing else to make. But at the time, this thing looked insane. And I sat with my friend watching him play this game, trying to beat the campaign, to get to him, to unlock him. This game did nothing but destroy, absolute nuclear, at almost every turn. The AI was cruel and merciless, the endless continues, all the way up to Kazuya and Heihachi, I think, and it was just brutal. My brain is now scarred with this image of Kazuya with the white trousers and the red gloves with the studs on them, beating the living shit out of my friend, and by, vicariously myself as well. And I just remember the absolute beatdown and punishment of this game, because we were too young to really understand fighting games, and we were mashing like lunatics. And by the time we got to the end of this, we could show me this character, it felt like we had endured an absolute crucible, and I don't even know how we even made it. But that is nothing compared to the next one. There are few PS1 torture simulators that are as apropos as the driving test in Driver. This might be the single hardest thing for a child to get their head around. You have to pass a set criteria to even get the privilege of playing this game. And this game is super cool. Everyone wanted to play it. I wanted to play it. But could I get past that sequence? Could I hell? It was unbearable. And of course I eventually did it, and my friends could do it, and you learn to do it, and you learn to get past it, but those early days of endlessly trying to do that test under that time limit, hoping that you tick those imaginary boxes. I didn't know what a slalom was. I had no idea what these terms were. I didn't know what it wanted, but I tried my best, and I failed spectacularly. Right at the start of the PlayStation for me, there is a super vivid memory of going to a friend's house and seeing his uncle there with his buddies, and they were playing Tomb Raider. And I'll never forget those amazing cutscenes at the start of the game where you go into that first cave. As you explore a little deeper, you come into your first engagement with some wolves, and that's where you pull those double pistols and it's time to blast. Sadly, the fusion of controls and my young mind coming together meant that a lot of the times I just got absolutely murdered in Tomb Raider, and if it wasn't missing a jump and hurting myself or getting just destroyed by the enemies, it was getting lost and generally fighting the entire experience. I will never lie to you folks and tell you that I was a great Tomb Raider player, but I always wanted to be, and those early failures, they live on in my memory, and those wounds are still fresh in spite of them being like 30 years old at this point or something. It's crazy, but it's true. And then the final one of our video, Vagrant Story. So you might notice on these lists, guys, that there is an absence of JRPGs, and that's deliberate. It's not because I didn't play them, it's because it's all I played. The PlayStation to me is a holy mecca of JRPGs. It's where I think the golden age was, where the best JRPGs in the world happened, and the creativity that was mustered at that time is unmatched even now. But this one is different. I have refrained from adding JRPGs to these lists to make them a bit more interesting for myself, but I have to use this one because Vagrant Story is one of the strangest JRPGs I've ever played, but it's also one of the coolest. But it has to be said, I got to a point in this game because I didn't understand the combat, and I didn't understand why I wasn't hitting very hard, and I didn't understand the affinity systems, but I got so far underground at one point that I couldn't do any damage to the enemies I was fighting, and I couldn't fathom why that was. I had struggled every encounter, every new location, I had done everything I could to just truly do every option that was available in my book of tricks to circumvent the problems this game threw at me. And they worked for so long, but my luck ran out on one sequence and I couldn't get out of it. It was an inescapable situation of me getting my arse beat and not really understanding how I'd got there. Years later, I went back to this game, and then it made a lot more sense, and I had a lot more fun with it, but I will never forget getting this when it first came out, being so excited for this new Square Enix JRPG, and then the combat just completely obfuscating me into the point of delirium. And that is why it kicked my ass.